Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Azrael. It's a movie on Shudder. Here we are. Joining me tonight, first up from Manhattan, New York City, please welcome John to the show.
Bringing all the energy tonight.
John, I'm on day like 14 of being sick, okay? So
that was me last week, so I get it.
I've seen you try to host this show before when I'm not here, so how about we give me a break? Next up tonight from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And last up from the Bay Area of San Francisco, please welcome Rachel to the show.
Love you all in a biblical sense. Everybody get along.
Am I a hero for being here with bronchitis tonight, John? I'm just asking the question.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Live long enough to become the villain.
That's right.
Die a hero.
That's right. I will say, it's nice to not be in the theater. I enjoyed our spooky season theater viewings, but it was nice to just be on my couch watching a movie, John.
This is like the longest I've gone without going to the movies now. This year. And I'm like, every day, I'm like, maybe I could see something. I could sneak this
You're
in.
fiending.
But yeah, I am.
I also, for the record, watched this a full 24 hours before this show.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, we were all shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't believe you, actually. I was like, he's faking, but presumably you did.
I did it.
Yeah, for the listeners, we make a lot of jokes about Eric watching the show just before we record. It's not a joke.
And because I did it last night, actually before the show today, I was able to watch VPR and take a nap.
Ooh.
There you go. Who's the hero now?
I think it's clear.
Ariana Maddox.
Well, yes. Yes. All right, y'all. Let's take a quick break and review Azrael.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
I was supposed to be coming down your way tomorrow, John. We were going to hang out.
I know. I had my calendar all blocked tomorrow, so now I got a little time. Let's say.
Yeah.
Go see a movie.
I know. Well, believe me, it's.
Well, we could still talk.
Nah, probably not.
We could, we can be had.
Jesus Christ.
We'll see.
Oh, boy.
You could try telling me about your inner world, John. We could start there.
Maybe.
Oh, I hate you. All right, John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is tribulation. Or tribulation. It
sounds like something Rachel would be writing about in her day job.
Tribulation, tribulation, a cause of great trouble or suffering. And it can also mean a state of great trouble or suffering. Comes to us from the Middle English, via the Old French, from the ecclesiastical Latin.
Wow.
Tribulare, meaning press or oppress. So there you go. Tribulare, tribulation. There is a period referenced in the Bible, the tribulation. Tribulation is like any period of suffering that a believer might go through, but there is a period after the rapture, I believe 7 years. You know,
That's correct.
Maybe that's what we're doing right now. Who knows? It's hard to say.
Sure feels like it.
Yeah. So, tribulation.
I gotta say, we didn't really know how long it's been, but the old Navy jackets are still in pretty good shape.
In the movie?
Yeah,
I have so many thoughts about the way they are living in this movie. Like this,
I can't wait. Why don't you tell me about Azrael, John?
Sure. Azrael, directed by E.L. Katz. So the thing that we know E.L. Katz from is his first film, which we covered on this here program, Cheap Thrills. You guys remember Cheap
Oh,
Thrills?
yeah, that's like the tortury one, right?
I
Like
do remember that. It's got my favorite. It's got my boy David Keckner in it.
Yes,
yeah,
the Keck.
yes. Holy shit.
Yeah, 2013 Cheap Thrills. I wouldn't have called it torture. I guess you're right. Like there's like it's like a dark comedy where they're playing a game of like truth or dare almost from what I remember, or they're like injuring each other. In any event, that's his first film. So it's 2013. He's done a bunch of other stuff. He directed and produced Haunting of Bly Manor, Channel Zero, other things. It was also written by this guy Simon Barrett, who has written a bunch of stuff. Most recently, the latest Kong X Godzilla film he was the writer on. He also wrote The Guest and You're Next. So that's sort of the creative team here. But yeah, I mean, this movie stars Samara Weaving. She is Azrael, I guess. Here's the thing. There's no dialogue in this movie. Let's just get that out up front. So it doesn't even matter what they say any of the characters' names are. You don't know what their names are because no one ever addresses anyone as anything.
I wish you guys could be in the room with me in those moments when I realize something like that. Like that no one's going to talk for the whole movie. I'm like, oh no.
Well, it's
Really?
in the
I was
description.
so relieved when you found out that they were literally never going to talk, because then I stopped being like, is now the time?
It makes me so hard. It makes it so hard for me to pay attention when people aren't talking, because that's when my brain goes, look at your phone. But you can't. That's when all the shit is happening now.
There's no dialogue. So yeah,
Quick,
so
fill
this
the
movie-
void inside with something.
Oh my
We
god,
are
I've never
told-
related to you more than in this moment, Eric.
I think it's like the first. There's several title cards throughout the film. I think it's the first title card that we're told that it's like the rapture has happened, and so we are now watching the people who are left on Earth after the rapture. Samara, the Azrael, is sort of seemingly trying to escape with her boyfriend or whatever, lover, partner, or whatever they call people in the rapture times. They're like on the run, I guess. We only know that because they are very quickly then captured and treated poorly. And there's a scene where Azrael is like basically left as bait for these creatures who I believe Wikipedia calls them like the burned ones or something. Again, it's not like we have any reference for what they look like. People who have been set on fire. I mean, they do look like they've been burned, but they're like all black. They're like a little red. They kind of look like the demon guy from what's it called?
So I at first was just calling them toasty zombies but then I was like, oh, are these like the souls of the damned re-released back onto Earth? Once the movie
who's
went
to
on,
say?
that's kind of what I felt.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
No,
From
what's
the
the
Lake of Fire?
Oh my god, I'm totally. But what's the red door? What was the like red door? Was
Insidious.
like Insidious. They look like that Insidious guy. That's what I was
Little
thinking.
bit.
Of.
Darth Maul light,
Yeah, this is like
extra
low
toasty
budget,
Darth Maul. Yeah.
like low budget Darth Maul. Which is not criticism, so to speak. But so she escapes from this baiting situation it's like a bear baiting situation that she escapes from. She kills one of the people that had captured her. And the rest of the film is basically like, first she tries to save the boyfriend, and then once that is no longer an option, it's sort of like retribution time for Azrael. And there's some other lore that we should talk about that comes into play later.
Sorry, it never once occurred to me that was her name.
It's the name of the movie.
I just assumed that was some kind of biblical reference, and they don't have names.
I mean, they don't call each other anything. They point and sort of gesticulate. So yeah, I think like we can leave it there. Like we got to talk about the ending. We got to talk about sort of like where this goes, but we don't need to necessarily get into it right this second. So yeah.
Love it. Rachel. Give it to me.
So, I mean, I can't read. I'm having trouble reading the room if everybody is just in a mood or if they all hate this movie. But this is my shit. This is
Ooh.
my shit. Like this was made in a
Hello.
petri dish for me. I actually am very interested in the exercise of having a completely dialogue-free film and the way that it's able to communicate relationships I found really fascinating, and the way that it is able to communicate world building I found really fascinating. Like anything about cults are interesting to me. I grew up, like I have a lot of religious trauma. So unlike something like The Conjuring, where they create sort of like biblical horror, and it has sort of this reinforcing of those doctrines and those belief systems and that morality. What I love is that this film takes biblical horror but like secularizes it completely, and it really like leans into like the full horrification of biblical revelation horror. So all of that I thought was fascinating. And also like Samara Weaving is one of those people that you want to look at. Looking at her is enjoyable, period. Watching her kind of fighting through this gauntlet of monsters and human monsters.
Don't forget the like fence that was like kind of poorly constructed.
Yes. OSHA violations. She defeated them all. And
I was like, is there no door? Because she jumps through, and they're like, well, we can't get her. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you get in and out? Like, there's got to be a fucking door. And then I'm like, oh, or maybe there is no door. Maybe you just fence yourselves in, and then that's it.
I mean, I think she kind of went through a hole, so they like would have to go.
No, I mean, I get it, but it's like they were like, oh, nothing to do now. Like they don't even make for the door. Just made me laugh. I'm being pedantic, but it was funny.
But yeah, if you're gonna ask me to just look at someone for the entire runtime of a movie, Samara Weaving is someone that I'm happily.
You could do worse.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm gonna be singing this thing's praises all episode.
Casey.
I actually like this too, and I did not have an old man reaction to there being no talking throughout this entire movie, believe it or not. I enjoyed this quite a bit. It was weird and esoteric as it got going, so I really got into the world building we got going around there, like, you know, with this sisterhood that had been muted, that I thought they were just, you know, from like what the title cards tell us and everything, that they just chosen to be mute as part of everything and their redemption of it. Then as we find out later on that they were physically muted and whatnot, just adds more and more onto the mystique of this thing as we keep going and going. Samara Weaving was great. I think everybody was great in this. And what's cool is there's a lot of esoteric crap happening in this movie. It's weird. It's funky at the end of the world. There's no dialogue, but I had no problem following this movie. They really acted it out and put it together so well that you didn't necessarily need the dialogue to get that story across, which was really impressive and cool. A lot of times, you know, when somebody says, oh, there's no dialogue in this movie, it feels gimmicky, but they made this into a full movie without that dialogue, which I was super impressed with. And again, I like the weird biblical stuff going on here. And I was I would say I was quite surprised by the ending of it. I just wasn't expecting where this movie ended. And I would thought that was kind of cool.
Jonathan.
I like that this movie exists.
Oh, Jesus.
And no, I mean,
here we go.
It's like, it is rough around the edges in a lot of ways. I think the like no dialogue thing, it was just like a little too much. Like, I feel like I get it. So here's the thing. There's this moment where she encounters someone from outside this community, and that person, this is actually a question, I think was just speaking gibberish, right? Like, she's listening to him, or was like, it kind of sounded like Spanish, but then I don't think it was. Like, was it? Like, I don't think it was Portuguese. I think I had the volume very low because my kids were like trying to go to sleep in the other room, and I also knew there was no dialogue, so it didn't matter. But then this guy starts talking, and I'm like, so I was like, hold on, like, does she not even understand? Like, I thought the point was like she couldn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so it
That's
was
how I
gibberish.
interpreted it. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Okay, that was my okay, but like, I just like don't know what I'm supposed to make of it, and like, I get the choice. I like respect the choice. To Casey's point, like, it is impressively executed from a narrative standpoint to like convey as much information as they do. I just feel like they could have given us a little bit. Like there could have been like like it just as is. There's so you are left to interpolate a lot, and like I actually feel like I got more after like going and reading a Wikipedia page that was like, oh, like the woman that's pregnant is Miriam. Like that's another biblical reference that's pretty important. Like like there's a lot of stuff going on here that I feel like they could have given you a like 10% more, and we might have actually gotten more out of it. My only other like very strong complaint is why in the fuck are they living in the middle of the woods? Like we've seen.
I did wonder, like, are they building? Well, so I took, and it's a question about where are we in like a timeline, because they shoot with this bridge that's kind of been like taken over by the elements. That to me suggests maybe we're like far in the future. And
but then how are the cars running, and why do they have gas? Like gas would go bad after a little while.
Yeah.
This is the problem. So like,
I was channeling Schnorr's a little bit with some of this stuff.
But,
Right? Like the guns
we've-
being in working order to me is almost
the guns
crazier
work
than the
great, and, like,
cars.
We've
And
seen
bullets, and everyone's rich with bullets.
we've seen a shitload of films that are set in post-apocalyptic times. Like this is like one of the most common tropes I feel like of not horror necessarily, but like popular culture. Like there's buildings all over the place. Like they have access to cars. Like they clearly are valuing security because like they build this like really shitty wall to keep these burned ones out. Just go to a fucking
Did you ever
house.
play
I think
Fallout 4, John?
Yeah, I think so.
You can build settlements in that game.
Yeah.
And one of the types of walls you can use is called a junk wall. It's
Yeah.
literally what this is. Like
Yeah,
you just fit pieces
Yeah.
together, and it's like plywood and springs and bicycles and like.
Yeah. So Rachel,
I-
sorry.
Rachel wants to say something.
This
Curious.
is kind of explained in those little interstitials because there's no dialogue. There is interstitials, and it's all sort of like.
But they're
you
like biblical.
assume
They're like
so-
fake biblical quotes.
Yeah,
Those are-
I think that they are specific to this cult essentially,
Yeah.
and there is this
Yeah.
whole thing about suffering being the
Mm.
purpose because suffering is a practice and it like gives you hope. And I think the reason we actually get the introduction of this outsider very briefly in the film is to show you that they are living this way specifically by choice.
intentionally.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is part of their religious practice.
Yeah. I mean, so okay, and like that was like a thought I had, but again, like why not give us like a little bit more on that? Like the movie's also only 85 minutes long, which is nice.
perfect.
Not a problem.
Perfect.
Not complaining.
It's just
Love a
an
clean 85.
all-out ride of a film. Like,
you could have
there's
gone
no
to 95
downtime.
and I would have traded like for 8 more minutes of exposition at some point. You know,
I mean, there's
like,
also
that's,
a
like,
lot, like in the same way that Midsommar does it. There is a lot of clues in the artwork inside
Yeah.
that church.
fair.
I think that I am somewhere in the middle. I think you could be a little dismissive about this film and kind of it's kind of like The Walking Dead meets Quiet Place.
Yeah,
And it's also a little bit like a fart housey version of Quiet Place in a way. That said, I think it is pretty tense. I think Samara Weaving's great. I think that the challenge with a movie like this is you got to separate yourself from the pack of other weird, dirty, and everything is depressed apocalyptic films. Because in the beginning, you're like, oh fuck, it's one of these. Okay, but I think where they do that is where they're riding this kind of interesting line with the religion stuff.
Mhm.
And ultimately, to what wins me over about this film is the ending.
Sure.
Um,
I would
yeah.
agree
The
with that,
ending-
to be
the
clear.
ending
Like I do
fucks.
like the ending. Yeah.
It's such a huge swing, and it really works. We can talk about it. The rest of the film is like, it's like you ever play a Far Cry video game. That's kind of what it reminded me of. Like there's like a base and she's trying to like infiltrate it, and like
Yeah.
my issue with, I think there's some very tense scenes, and I actually came around on the design of like the damned or whatever we're gonna call these toasty zombies. Like at first I'm like, my least genre of movie monster is like we just took a person and put some shit on them. Like and they're just like, ugh, like that bothers me. But then when I kind of made the connection of like, oh, I think these are specifically supposed to be like damned souls risen
Well,
from hell. And then
I
I
love
liked
that they went for it with the way they ate the neck too.
Yeah.
Like it was
Great.
so, it was so
and then
graphic.
in my head, and again, it's because I think the movie invites you to have to put pieces together and make kind of connections. I started thinking about in my head of like, if these are damned souls, that they could be from like any period in human history. That's not even textual in the movie. That was just like a thought I had. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm
It's
kind of
also
into
kind of
that.
biblical. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. One issue that I have, even for an 85-minute movie, is it becomes repetitive. Like there's kind of the same three things that happen over and over. It's like she gets captured, tied up, almost eaten by one of these things. She barely escapes in like a very James Bond-esque, like kind of like they got her tied up, but she can get out or something. Then she like escapes, someone else gets eaten, then she's trying to get revenge. That happens like kind of 3 times in the film.
Mm-hmm.
By the last one, and it does escalate each time in sort of like the stakes, but by the last one I was kind of just like, I mean, and I think it's, you get, because there's no dialogue, you kind of get, you're penning yourself in a little bit just by the way that you're kind of structuring this. I did like this kind of fascinating bit of the outside world coming in. I did want more. I feel like it's a little teasy to like give us that much more, that much stuff. Like,
Well, there's a lot of design in what,
tidbits.
like that dude has a truck. It has all these lights on it.
It's like
So
kitted out. He
there's
seems
tons
very
of-
modern.
Yeah, there's tons of like energy usage going on that he
Yeah.
clearly has access to. Where is he going? Where is he coming from? Like he,
Whereas like he's giving off modern human, whereas like she's giving off Planet of the Apes.
yeah.
Like
I was
human.
kind of fascinated by the lights on his truck too. Like those had to have a purpose.
Well, I assume they were to scare off the like burn
Yeah.
guys.
They
But-
made great shots from high above, going through those dark woods
Yeah.
though, watching the lights.
It
go
was
through
cool.
The trees.
It's a good shot.
So overall I think this is like tense. I think it's interesting. I like the bits of world building we're given. It did get a little repetitive for me, but ultimately I was very like bravo by the end, because the ending just, sometimes the ending just wins you over. And that was the case here for me.
Well, that's sort of when I say like I'm glad, like that's sort of how I felt at the end. Like I'm glad this exists. Like it just, I ended up having like a ton of questions, some of
Yeah.
which may have just been like, look, they made specific decisions based on budget, I assume, and like fine, cool, good on them. I don't know. Like I have a lot more questions about what's going on with this cult, but
What's the business model?
well, why and like why do they have all these guns, but then like they're like they shoot that guy? Why do they care about him other than they want to get at, like why
Well,
do they even care if
they're trying to
Azrael
get
and the boyfriend?
her. They
But
want
why do they
her.
care if they run away?
Because I think that they have fled the cult.
Sure.
I think that's the cult that they were.
That's what I was going to
mean,
ask,
Yeah,
because
that's
they all
what
have
I-
their voice boxes removed,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, okay.
But why do they care if she leaves?
It's a cult. Do you know
It's a
how cults
cult.
work?
They don't look
like
like
that
people.
is,
Yeah, like in theory.
Yeah.
But
Counterpoint
and it's a
though,
doomsday cult.
but counterpoint,
Yeah.
you leave
yeah,
that
but it is a
cult,
doomsday cult, which
but
we
you
learned.
leave that cult, and you go wander out in the woods, like you're gonna die pretty quickly. Like you're not gonna survive without the
I
group.
mean,
Well,
the level of commitment in that cult is pretty freaking high. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
is not a casual cult. If you're getting your voice box cut out like that,
Mm-hmm.
there's a certain level of control, like coercive control, that is innate.
And they're
in the
sacrificing
structure
people
of
to
that
the
cult.
woods monsters every so often.
Yeah, I mean
How-
that's part of what they're doing, right? Like there is
Right.
some interplay between what is happening in that church and what is happening with those creatures.
like when they
So-
have they're having like ecstatic reactions to
Yeah.
her being eaten. That was so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Why is the boyfriend so dumb at escaping? Like he lights this fire and she like flips out about it. But it's like, did you guys not, was there no, I mean, there was no conversation, obviously. Was there no communication? Like, hey, Let's not light
People
fires.
do dumb
like, that's-
shit.
Yeah, you
I
think you
don't
know.
know. People do dumb shit. Like
They're
people,
just
you
not
get
good at
caught because
escaping.
you make a mistake. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's unreasonable for people to make mistakes.
Do you
Did
think
these
they were
people
together?
pre-exist the rapture though? Like, do you think these
Yeah.
people have all only existed post-rapture, or do you think they like existed?
You mean
Like
the
they
cult?
know how to use? Yeah, like they know how to use guns. They have access to
No,
cars.
your
like-
question being, were these people that were alive during the rapture, or were these
Correct.
later humans?
Well,
like,
I
are we
mean,
generations down the road?
I don't
Yes.
think we're generations down the road. I think we are within the 7-year tribulation. I think that
Yeah.
this is. That's why they have old Navy jackets. That's why they have
Right. Yeah.
guns. That's why they have bullets. We're talking about a matter of years. And you have to remember that a huge portion of the population, if this, like, it sets it up that the rapture has occurred. A huge portion of the population blinked out of existence. These are the remaining people who are going through the, like, 7 years of war and plagues and pestilence and, like, and religious testing that's taking place as, like, the Antichrist and the false prophet rise. So
Here's a question: why would you want to live?
I mean, why do we want to live now? To be
I'm pretty.
honest,
Listen,
like,
as bad
Whoa.
as things are,
This got dark.
I'm pretty comfortable right now. Like these people are
Right.
not comfortable.
Yeah.
I took a nap on my couch earlier. It was great.
Well, the version of this that I love is The Leftovers. That show's great.
I've never seen, but I've heard it's
and
amazing.
that's like a situation where, first of all, like during the rapture, I think only like 10% of the people go away at that point versus like maybe here it's like a lot more. But they all just like keep living in like their houses and like going to
10%
jobs
is
and
a
stuff.
lot. Yeah, and it presumably the leftovers could still be happening. That's why we see
Yeah.
the guy in the truck, right? But then there's gonna be, think about how people react to what's happening in the world right now and the weird paths they go
Oh,
down
yeah.
with their religion. Now imagine like the collective apocalyptic trauma of 10% of the population disappearing in a moment's notice. Like people are gonna get freaking weird with their religious practices.
Yeah.
And I think going into the woods, cutting out your voice box, not my choice, but I don't think it's actually that outlandish.
No,
especially
some
if you
number of
think
people
it's
would
the
do
end of
that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. This is where like
Clip
I
that.
just feel like
I want it
some
on
of this
repeat.
stuff could have been. I don't need to be spoon fed, but like, give me a little something. Hey, because I think Rachel, you said you saw it twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I watch it
a
again,
second watch is
and I'd be
helpful.
like, oh yeah, like the suffering piece. I get it now, but I don't know. Like I was paying attention. This was not.
I think I'm
I
actually
was
with
locked
you on
in on
that.
this thing.
I think you either give a little less or you give a little more. I think it's a weird middle area they're in.
Dude, you couldn't give much less. Like there's not like I don't know. But
It's there.
No,
yeah.
but I think you either tease less to the wider world if you're not going to tell me about it, or you tell me about a little bit more about
Mhm.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Except
I
Uh,
do. I
it's
think I
there
do
for a
want to be spoon fed,
purpose.
John. I'm a baby bird.
Yeah.
Serve me my dinner, please.
Can we talk about the ending? Can we get to the ending?
Sure.
Because I think this also gets to the like crux of what is the cult. Why and maybe why do they care that they're escaping? Because that like,
Yeah. So there's this like
could be piece of it.
religious lady who's like in this church situation the whole
there's
time.
a hole in the church that is like making a whistling noise because of the wind, and that's like
And a
giving
scratch in
them
the belly.
inspiration or
and
something.
I was like, how do you decide who runs the church when nobody talks? How do you
Yeah.
decide who does what job? I don't understand that part.
Well,
But-
apparently you haul off and slap the shit out of people until they start listening to you, according to this movie.
She's pregnant, and at the end of the film, in like as everything is blowing up, like because Samara Weaving has set fire to the camp's on fire. She kills a bunch of people, then she goes to kill this lady, and then witnesses this lady give birth, and then it starts making amazingly horrific noises. Like it's going back and forth between baby noises and like demon noises, and you're like, oh shit, this isn't good.
Mhm,
And the reveal is basically she gave birth to like a little baby Baphomet,
mhm.
and
Well,
it's a
and it
great
is-
effect. It's fucking
yeah.
awesome. It's like
It's-
it's kind of cute, but it's also like, oh my god.
It
Horrifying.
is prefaced well because there's this sequence where she scrapes the woman's stomach, which is like a little contrived, but like she basically like she gets a little bit of the woman's like blood on her hand, and then when she's being attacked by the burned ones, in a fucking casket under the ground.
Yeah,
which is
but
like,
doesn't that's a big question I had though, because doesn't one of the cult members actually rub the blood on her?
no, it was because
There's like
the,
a scene where
she-
someone else is doing this to her.
the burned one like smells. I think the
blood on
burned one
fingers.
does that. When
I know,
she's in
but
the
what I'm
I
casket.
think
saying
they might
is
be
go
spreading
back.
her blood on her because the blood is what attracts those things. That's why they cut her leg
yeah,
at the beginning. That's why, like,
Yeah.
repeatedly throughout it, every time they're summoning those monsters, they do it with like a blood sacrifice.
But then she gets the pregnant lady's blood on her separately.
She had it.
scratches her, so she's
It's
got
on
it
her
underneath her
hand.
fingernails.
Oh.
Yeah,
Weird.
Yeah,
Okay,
she
that's
scratched her
confusing.
belly there.
Yeah, because they
Mhm.
give you
So
that
they
like
weren't counting on
flashback.
that.
They
Yeah.
give you that flashback like right when it's
And
happening.
that's why it didn't attack her.
And they like smell her hand and they're like, ooh, she has the baby Baphomet smell on her, and
Yeah.
so we're gonna leave her alone. Okay,
That
like
seemed
I think they would
confusing.
know
Yeah.
she wasn't the one pregnant with the baby, right? Like they
well, except for
maybe.
they're blind, so they're
Are
they can't. Yes,
guess they're
that's
blind.
why they're following the smell. That's why
Yeah.
there's that part at the beginning where she's like hiding in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because they can't see her; she's covering the blood, so it can't
Yeah.
smell her.
Gotcha.
So I didn't fully understand that whole grave sequence because as she gets thrown in there, then a door opens. Who opened the door for
they
one?
did. That's like it's like a torture device they had.
Yeah, it was
As
a
in,
trap. They
like-
like threw her down in like a pit, essentially.
Just
like,
to feed her,
and they're like,
essentially
they'll
to feed
take-
her to the burned
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
the burned ones are going to finish her off, but they don't.
Gotcha.
You know, they're not counting on.
See,
her
this movie
having
was
a-
so cryptic. Like in the moment, I couldn't tell if there was some deeper meaning from that scene I was supposed to be driving. Because then there's also like a dream flashback where we're seeing a bunch of shit that felt like it was supposed to have meaning, and I was like, no
Yeah,
idea.
'cause I
Bro.
wondered if it meant somebody was trying to help her or something at first.
Like in
but
the
she eventually
moment
gets out that
when
way.
the thing is smelling her and then goes away, isn't that when she has that
Yeah.
flash? And we
Yeah.
see a
She's
bunch of
seeing all the
images.
prophecy stuff. Yeah, the
Yeah.
prophecy
Yeah.
stuff that is like
I didn't
foreshadowed in the
follow
walls.
a lick of it.
It's on the
including
wall.
her.
Yeah.
She's a part of the prophecy. Like she's
Yeah.
the blonde haired woman in the art.
This
And
is
that's
why I
you
can't
see it at
watch
the end
a
where
movie
she's
without
like
dialogue.
she's at the end of the movie she's standing in front of that piece of art and the camera pans up and then the glass
cool.
makes her look like an illuminated
Yeah.
Well,
that was
that's also
saint,
yeah.
essentially.
Anytime the Halo in like
Yeah.
all that old
Yeah.
art is medieval art.
Right.
You had if you have the circle around you, you're a saint.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like again, like this is stuff on a second watch. It probably congeals a lot better.
Yeah. I'd be down for a
like
second
got.
watch.
I would say I got
Do it.
75% of
absolutely
it.
not would I ever watch this movie again. I enjoyed it. but I
Really,
can't.
it's such a good ride.
Yeah.
Like aside from all of this, it feels like such a good ride.
These
Yeah.
kinds of movies are not a good sit for me because they're too depressing.
Interesting.
See, I
See,
thought
and
it was. I thought it was a
Especially
good
right
sit.
now.
That's where it weighs in for me.
I get that.
Especially
get
right
that.
now. No, thank
The,
you.
the conditions are not conducive to you having a good time.
I'm now
just
back
about
in like
anything.
pandemic mindset of like you're gonna need to run by subject matter to me.
Okay.
Not you. I mean the royal you.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
global we.
It's so funny that you say this is sort of like art housey because I was thinking like usually my top 10 list is just like like 9 up its own ass fart smelly art house films and then like one like genre good time and this one to me is the genre good time
is the
one of
genre-
the
Are you
year.
high? That's crazy.
No, I
That's
think this one is like
crazy.
it's
It
gory
doesn't
and
have
like
dialogue.
man
compared to your Adams Family movies. This
fucking
is
West
the-
Coast elite over here apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like to me this feels
sounds like you're in
such
a bubble to
fun-
me, Rachel. I'm just kidding.
I mean, let's be honest. I am. I'm self-aware enough to know that, but because it has sort of the trappings of what could be a very slow, pensive, thoughtful exploration of religious dogma or some bullshit, but instead we have monsters ripping out throats, tearing off heads, like knockdown drag out fights, and like it felt to me very rooted in genre in a way that I found to be delightful. I don't know. It did not feel art house to me. It felt
No,
like
it
a
is.
pure horror experience.
I wouldn't say it's like all the way on that side of the spectrum, but it's definitely trying to be.
Well,
and it's not about grief. Like
No, it's not.
It's such a relief. It's just such a I don't know. I had
Understand
it's-
too, I don't always mean fart house is a bad thing. I'm just saying.
Oh, I know.
like,
I know.
This movie has airs of
it has
being
fart
fancy.
in it, so
Yeah,
you
it's
could
got-
see
it's
that you might be
farty.
confused. No, it also, like, I agree with you. This actually is pretty. It plays pretty straight genre in some way. Like, it's a revenge movie. Like, and you get the thrill of the revenge.
Yeah.
She succeeds. Now
Yeah.
she might regret her success at a certain level, but or I don't know. Maybe that's the other piece. I wasn't sure with the ending how, like, she's excited. I guess she's excited for the world to end at this point, and that's where she's just like, "Cool, here we did it. Like, now here it comes."
Well, a lot of her motivation throughout the whole thing was sheer survival. So I could see her seeing that resolve as to taking care of the current violence, because probably in her mind that means like the crawlers are probably, this is obviously an evolution to a next step. So she'd survived to that point.
I kind of like it because I think we ascribe a certain level of like value, like morality and values to her because she's our avatar in this film and she's our hero in this film. So when it kind of flips the script at the end and she doesn't necessarily do the thing that a hero would do, would be like at least be horrified or shocked by the appearance of the baby, but actually is smiling. It feels like a subversion of those ideas and like our perceptions about her in a way that I thought was really interesting. And like I said, it gets back at this like secularization of the mythology of the revelation, instead of like, if this were The Conjuring, they would defeat the baby at the end and status quo and all would be right with the world again, God wins. And this doesn't do that. And I think
I read it as
fascinating.
I read it as more like almost nihilistic, or not nihilistic, like she's just like, fuck it, like, let's go with this baby, like, why not? Okay.
And I think that's badass.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
survived
agree.
up to
That
here.
part's
Let's
fun.
see where it goes.
It's not uplifting, but it is fun.
So funny because I was so good for her. I felt uplifted. I felt alive.
Down, bitch. Let's go.
It's kind of the Midsommar ending where she's smiling into the camera after the darkest shit.
Yeah.
And this is on like a fully apocalyptic level instead of just like a interpersonal relationship level. And so
I just think the
you
only
brought up a great point, Rachel, that we don't know, with no dialogue, we don't know anything about her.
No.
So we have no idea why she left that cult.
We have
or why they were
superimposed
chasing her down
on her.
Maybe she is just a bad dude. We'd have no way of knowing from this movie. She's just surviving.
Yeah.
I just assumed, like, look, I took it as like she wanted to leave. They wouldn't let her leave. They killed her boyfriend. So she fucking murders all of them. And she's like, let's burn this whole world to the ground. Like, that's what it was. Like, I don't think I'm imposing that on her. That is like textual.
No, but I mean, what I'm saying is she doesn't have the typical heroic response to it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we ascribe those values on her because she is in the archetype of our heroic lead.
She's not trying to reset the world to normal, to good. She's just like, this is it. This is the new dark.
And I'm writing this out.
I also feel like even our quote unquote villains in this are pretty nuanced. Like, they take these moments where you see these sort of human interactions between them, moments of tenderness, that complicate the narrative in a way that's a little, and world in a way that I think is interesting, especially reflecting on where it ends, It like plays a little bit with who the bad guys are, the quote unquote bad guys are.
Can I just ask, and I know Eric wants to wrap this, so I'm just going to ask one more question. What did the Miriam, the pregnant lady, think was happening? Because she kills herself after
did she not think that's what was happening?
I don't think she thought. I think she was genuinely shocked by what happened at the end. I think
that is true, clearly.
Right, which leads me to believe I think she feels like a chosen one. I think probably because there is this whole, in Revelation, like the false prophet, right, that leads to the rise of the Antichrist. Now, granted, it's in reverse order in Revelation, but I do think that because there is scriptural history of like angels visiting virgins, like that is the basis of the Judeo-Christian religion, right? Like that's where it breaks. So probably she thinks that like there's like it's some sort of, she's been visited and chosen by some sort of angelic force, and instead She gets
Yeah.
a demon baby.
I thought she got it on with one of the burned ones, and that's where. how
Oh
it-
no.
No,
I think
okay.
it was like divine intervention.
Okay.
You know,
And
speaking
which
of
is
the
why
burned
she would be
ones,
the leader of the church, right? Like unspoken, unquestioned, she's carrying,
yeah,
the savior.
She's not leading on her artistic skills alone. Let's just put it that way. Like the art is not itself like validating.
That's fair.
a disconnected point too. Going back to Eric talking about the burned ones early on, how they look kind of like humans with shit rubbed all over them, which I agree with. But like there was that first encounter she had with one where she ran into that building and there's one following her. The movements of that actor on the thing were amazing, and because it wasn't the typical zombie shuffle and there was arms doing weird shit.
One
and-
thing I really like is they're extremely slow, and they actually reminded me of like Fulci zombies. Like,
yeah,
even like in the movie Zombie, because okay,
they're
like
very
traditional
stilted and awkward.
traditional
'cause
zombies are slow, but these guys are literally like so slow, and it totally reminds me of like 70s Italian zombies, which I thought was
Yeah.
a nice touch. I liked that.
Yeah, that movement that they used was what won me over with those creatures. I thought they were
Yeah.
fairly creepy especially when you see them coming out of the woods like that.
All right, well, John was right. I do want to wrap. So, would you recommend this, Rachel?
Heartily, happily,
Casey.
to everybody. Get into it.
Yes.
John?
I think I'm gonna go. Yeah.
I'm also gonna go. Yeah,
Yay.
good. I wouldn't call it a good sit, but it's entertaining.
There were some pictures
only
moving around
apocalypse-
for 85 minutes.
The only
and I like
apocalypse
that.
movie I can handle right now is This Is the End. That's kind of always my philosophy on life.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's Danny McBride. All right, 4 thumbs up. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
Some important updates from our YouTube chat, John. From Liz. Podcasting with bronchitis is the stuff heroes are made of.
Yeah. That's yeah, I think that's like they hand out awards for that, right?
Listen, I don't want to say that I'm easy, but Liz knows how to get on the show.
Yeah.
It's not hard to decipher.
No.
This one made me laugh. Renee, Old Navy coats can't even stand up to Canadian winter. It's true. Her coat is kind of patched. I did notice though. It's like there's some stitches and like patches on it.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is a lot of the set design. I'm like, the tents. Look, if it's only been like 5 years, like the tents look like shit. Like they should like still like there's some level of like they would have nicer things, but then I don't know, whatever.
Suffering is the point, John.
I get it, but you know, they care a lot about the guns. Let's just be clear, you know.
Also,
That's a tool.
from Liz, I knew how John felt when the mic times were happening. So for people who weren't on the pre-show, this was
Yeah.
John showing up and raging at all of us about his microphone.
Yes.
It was mostly just Eric, to be clear. Like, come on. I had no problem with Rachel and Casey.
Then why were we both crying?
That's right. Why are mommy and daddy fighting?
Yeah, maybe my
Yeah.
therapist will tell me the answer to that tomorrow, John.
There you go.
And if you missed the pre-show, you also missed me reading off a bunch of Chuck Tingle book titles.
Yeah.
Feed that into the AI, see what comes out.
Yeah, Vanderpump chat segued into Chuck Tingle talk pretty quick.
Oh, here's one for
Kind
you,
of a dream
Casey.
conversation.
I do think this was pre-show, but I was teasing about this. Casey with the noisiest drink ever. Casey's
Yeah.
ice.
Heck
That was a
yeah.
good one.
That and just people telling me it's too early to have a Christmas tree up, but I do what I want.
Disagree.
I have a work-related story about that I cannot tell on air, but I'll tell you guys after.
Great.
All right. No email. Casey, what do we got?
All right, we got one thread out there tonight. Out there on the threads, one question. Oh no, we got another one come up since we started. So first up, we got our good buddy Popcorn Designs. What special skills will make you an invaluable member of your future apocalypse cult?
Absolutely none.
I can
I'm
fish.
good for morale.
It's true. I can see that.
I
I'm
can
just like a good
crochet.
worker. Like if there's like fucking hole that needs to be dug, like
Here's the
I'll
problem
dig
is
the hole. Like, let's go.
am a contrarian and I'm like allergic to authority in a very intense way.
They would
And
throw
that
Eric
makes
out of
you
that
not
cult
very
so
good in the
fast.
apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
either like a leader or a follower. I also don't want to be a leader. So that doesn't really help me there.
So you're
No,
saying you're
you'd
the
be
crazy
like
guy
times
that
in the
lives in the
bunker.
grain silo,
Yeah, you'd be like living by yourself in like a hole, basically.
the hermit.
Well, hopefully you'd have a house because you'd have the sense to be like, why am I living in the
Why am I in the
woods right
woods?
now?
Yeah.
So,
I've got all the architecture from human history I could go find.
yeah. I'm gonna go live in the Coliseum like Godzilla.
That's right. Take a nap.
Yeah.
A little nap
I
in
can
the
just
Coliseum.
picture you, one
Me and-
couch in the middle
me
of
and
the
Godzilla.
Coliseum, snoozing.
That's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. I can fish. I could do a little bit of hunting. I'm not like a master hunter or anything, but my dad raised me in the woods. That's all I can say.
Oh, can I? One quick question. There is a part in this movie where she gets trapped in like one of those like steps in a fucking rope thing, and it like
Oh yeah.
the trap is set in like a very specific
It
location.
was very Wile E. Coyote.
And it's like there's this like wide open area. Like, what if she had walked 2 feet
From the
to
other
the
side of the
left
tree.
or the other side of the tree? Like, it was all a little like, wait, why is she? She's like walked the one place that she needed to step. She stepped. I don't
It
know.
was like the smallest loop I've ever seen
Yes.
in a movie on one of those traps.
Like if she had approached him from any other
Do
angle.
we know it's the only trap that's out
Well,
there?
no.
Rachel.
we do
I
not.
literally was like, how many of these traps did they set? You know, like
They
10?
also, I mean, they
got
kind
time.
of. It was a specifically trap. Like they were kind of ushering her into it. I think because that's where they shot the truck. It's where you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
it was.
Well, yeah. That's why they put their.
It's
put
the
her boyfriend
illusion
there.
of free will, John. The illusion.
It's like heretic. She chose that outcome. Mhm.
She sure did.
Yeah.
Control.
Women.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Noting that down. November 20th. All right. Excellent. It's going in the book.
Like, I'm just channeling my dude, Mr. Deeds or whatever his name was. What, Mr.
Mr.
Reed?
Deeds.
Mr. Reed? What was his name?
No, let's go with Mr. D.
Mr. Deeds. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to go with that's
Hugh-
the only thread for
Hugh
tonight
Deeds.
because the other thread we have is not worth reading. So
Oh,
no offense.
inappropriate.
Wow. Someone's
No, they
crying
just-
into their phone right now.
No, it's just
Oh.
somebody new that asked this what this movie's about.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Sorry, that's not the point of SBH.
Yeah.
BGH.
That's asked
You
Wikipedia.
listen to the show on Friday.
There you
You'll
go.
find out.
By this point in the show, you will have already known. How about you, Eric? You got anything for us?
Yeah. I was speaking.
He's contemplating his apocalypse hole.
I was speaking Jace was like, I sent in a long email and I couldn't find it. So I found it and he compiled all this really interesting information, like data about our recommendations for this year.
Oh,
But
I like to know that.
clearly cannot read this evening. But I just said to him, let's recompile it for the year ender because this is like perfect year ender material.
Did you put it into Google Gemini or whatever it's called now and see what it said?
I can't read. I can't. I barely
Okay.
make it
All
through
right,
this,
fair
John.
enough.
Like, you cut me some slack. But I did think about it. Full
That was a
strength
great
Eric
bit.
would have
We had that.
would
We
have
had a great
Gemini'd
bit that
this.
one week
Yeah.
when you were like running it through the AI to see what the AI said the emails were.
When I was running 2-sentence emails
yeah,
and getting
and they came
3-sentence
out- it was like
summaries.
6 sentences long. Yeah.
Paulie, is this another everything is terrible and everyone is dirty movie that will depress Eric?
Yeah, kind of.
Yes.
A little bit.
Brian, any TV
But there's
shows?
also biblical stuff now, so
That's
that Eric.
true.
And good for her ending.
Yes.
Don't forget
Yeah.
that. It's an important element. Good for her.
Good for her.
Any TV shows we're into right now?
Ooh, I have a couple. Is anybody watching The Penguin? I've watched 7 episodes of Penguin.
I'm
finished The
behind you, but I
Penguin.
have seen some of it, and it's great.
I finished this season. It's phenomenal.
So I'm very excited to watch the ending. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it though. Like I saw the Batman and it was like pretty good, but I'm just like, am I going to like be following the Penguin in a season 2? Like I don't think
No,
so.
You know,
Like,
you know
presumably
why I
there's
don't
a
think so?
movie
Because
coming?
Colin Farrell said when he wrapped that show, he never wanted to see that fucking costume again. It's like I
It
was
is a
watching an
lot.
interview today. He was talking about how it's a full bodysuit. It's a 3-hour like thing.
Yeah.
And to pee, he's got to like dig in like these flaps to like open it up so he can take a piss. And basically, he didn't eat all day because he couldn't do the other thing if that happened. So he just wouldn't eat until after they wrapped.
You
So-
wouldn't know it's him to watch it. Like it's truly he's unrecognizable.
Can I give a
Stars, I think
controversial opinion? That Batman movie literally put me to sleep.
It's too long.
I
mean,
thought it
it's
was really
fucking
boring.
Really long.
So
And I did not understand it.
I like the formula they're experimenting here because I think I see this as a new formula for superhero movies. And yes, that first one got too boring. There's so much in it. I see this as they're building this out to the universe and throwing in these mini series. They're doing a whole shitload of world building for this version of Gotham, and we're going to go into the Batman 2, and they're not going to have to spend a half hour setting up the current state of the city. We know where they're going to leave off. Penguin's taken over, so we figured Batman 2 is going to start a year or so later after Penguin's been running wild and start coming in there. And
all
seems
I
like a
will
good
say,
start.
like, sure.
obviously.
I mean, I think that's probably what they are doing. All I will say is, like, Marvel has done this, and it does not end well. Like, it ends actually.
Well,
very
but
poorly.
also, so
We
like
can't say
Gareth,
Homework,
Marvel
I-
hasn't done it
connective
this
homework,
well.
I have to do the better.
no, but this is important. Like, because it's Gareth Edwards, right?
who
No,
doing
who did this Batman?
Oh no,
No, no,
Matthew,
no. Yeah,
Matt Reeves, right?
Matt
Yeah.
Reeves. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has requested James Gunn that this Batman universe have nothing to do with all the shit James Gunn is doing at DC, and James Gunn has agreed. So it's completely separate, basically, which means the most successful thing they've done basically is not a part of whatever they're building. So that seems like problematic, but
It's not a great sign.
Peacemaker is pretty freaking great, man.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet, but
Ooh,
in any
it
event,
is.
I'm liking the Penguin. I'm liking it. The other thing I'm watching.
I love
is,
Colin Farrell.
Yeah,
think
he's fun.
Awesome.
They put Detroiters on Netflix, which like I had watched it. I think it was on Paramount. It might still be on Paramount. I loved it. The show is fucking ridiculous, and I love it. It's like Tim Robinson show that he did before. I think he should leave. And
Yeah, him and
that's great.
Sam. I can't. Whose last name I can't replace.
yeah.
I love Tim
Ra-
Robinson so much.
If you haven't
Rachel,
watched
did-
Detroiters, dude, you're like you got it.
No, I need to. Rachel, have you
Yeah.
seen I Think You Should Leave? I need you to watch it because I get those memes, and I think Mark is sick of me sending them to him. Even
Okay, I'll get on it. Yeah,
I
my
literally
problem is
watched it and was like-
rarely get to watch things for myself.
Yeah,
know what
I
I mean?
watched it.
Here's
and
the
I was
thing:
like,
the episodes are 12 minutes long, so you can watch.
Are
the
they really?
entire- Yeah, it's like
oh, interesting.
the whole season. There's 3 seasons. There are each 5 or 6 episodes that are like 12 to 15.
Oh, I don't
minutes
think I
long.
realized that.
Yeah,
I
they're very
literally
short.
watched it, and like a couple episodes in, was like, "What the fuck is Tim Robinson the funniest person on earth? Like, holy
Mhm.
shit! Like, how did I not know this?"
I'll throw out
Detroiters is
another,
like has like more plot around it, but then there's like a couple episodes that are just straight. I think you should leave episodes. It's ridiculous. Sorry, go ahead, Casey.
Oh, I was gonna say I'll throw out another show out there that just started up this last Friday is Silo season 2. If you haven't watched that, the first season's great. I'm really excited for the second season. Haven't read all the books. There's gonna be some crazy stuff, and we get Steve Zahn this season.
Mm-hmm. I've been side eyeing it. I have. I read the first
It's
book.
good.
I've only read the first one. So
So the second season is the second half of the first book.
okay.
I'm just watching VPR right now.
Yeah, I have been watching a lot of VPR thanks to.
Oh yeah, have we talked about this in the show? We got Casey into VPR last week.
Yes,
we talk
we
about
now
it, John?
have a chat that is specifically about VPR.
I have
I
my
don't
own.
Couldn't
remember-
be happier.
I don't remember how it happened. There was a day when
It was
like,
the election.
There, yes,
Mm.
I was literally just gonna say there was a day when Casey was vulnerable, and
Yes,
Rachel and
was
I
in a
pounced.
bad place.
We
And-
sure did.
Mm,
It was the
fucking nailed
1-2 tag team.
Because I
Like,
admit,
just
I
like
was in a
drug-
bad
like-
place.
Literally, like drug pushers were like, you know what'll make you feel better?
Yeah.
watching Jax fight someone
we
outside
lie?
Stassi's birthday
They're
in a
not
tiny
joking
sweater.
because it was like the day after the election. I was in a bad mental place. I was telling them I
Yeah.
can't bring myself to watch TV and stuff. They're like, I got something for you to
We got the
try."
perfect thing for you. It's a world in which nothing real or serious exists.
And
Just
I'm now
dumb,
in
silly
season 4.
people.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you are. Yeah,
Yep.
you are.
I am hooked. It didn't take long either.
Trying to think what I've been watching that like is relevant. It's not out yet, but I watched all of that No Good Deed, which is the Ray Romano, Lisa Kudrow sort of like dark comedy about selling a house. It was good. I liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. I had to watch of all the things I had to marathon in a week. That was definitely the best of them. Trying to think if there's any Dragula. If you guys aren't watching Dragula, it's freaking great. This latest episode was Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy were the guests on it. And it was a Frankenhooker challenge. Yeah.
Darcy showed up.
Why are
dressed
you
as
laughing?
Frankenhooker.
Have you watched it? You don't know.
I mean, I'm familiar with
I had
it
never
as,
seen
like,
Frankenhooker
concept.
until they did that on Last Drive-In last year. It's delightful.
Oh yeah,
It is delightful. Yeah.
That's a classic.
And it's
Oh, by the
their
way, Liz-
interpretation is very filthy, very, very dirty.
By the way,
It's not
Liz,
for
I
you,
am no
John.
longer
You,
Jax.
you would have the vapors in like 5 minutes.
might.
You can't hang
might.
with the boulets, but a deviant like Eric, you're gonna love it. Get into it.
Good times.
Yeah, Liz, I'm no longer Jax. She'd asked in the chat if I was still Jaxed after my 4 seasons of Vanderpump.
You're
I'm
no
coming
longer-
around to Team Ariana.
Jax pills.
Well, yeah. But I'll be honest, I'm still Jaxed a little bit. Not like as
He
he's a
has his
terrible
moments.
human being.
You miss him when he's not on the show. For
Yeah.
sure.
Although
it's more of-
he has some rough seasons, but yeah.
It's more of a what dumb shit is Jax going to do today?
John,
I'm hanging
get,
up. I
go
might
get your
hang up
wife,
the call.
John. Bring your wife.
I'm hanging up the call.
Oh my God,
Do you have
any more
something
questions,
he does.
Eric?
I can't wait for you.
We
to
have
get
one more
to.
question. Somebody wanted to know if anyone's watched the Salem's Lot that's out.
Oh, I haven't.
I did. It's all right. It is, it's a good retelling of the original, like the miniseries and stuff. It's perfectly good. It didn't blow my mind or anything new, but it was nice seeing it in a new modern format. They did a
I've
good
never
job with it.
seen any iteration of Salem's Lot. I once
There's-
tried to listen to the audiobook on a flight and I fell asleep in about 30 seconds. Not a bad
know it's
thing.
good.
That was kind of the intended effect, but
It's
yeah.
not the most exciting vampire tale. It's fairly standard as vampire tales go.
What I need is like a- I
miniseries,
need
but they did a film version too, right? Or did they?
I
like,
need a take
recut
on
the
like
whole-
the original.
The new one is as a film.
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
a
no,
take
know.
on like the 1979 version from somebody who didn't see it as a kid. Like I need another person who saw it, was seeing it as an adult for the first time to tell me what they thought.
Mhm.
It feels like a nostalgic thing.
Okay, very possibly could be.
I think it might be.
I love the book. I read the book when it was like, it might have been the first Stephen King book I ever read, and I loved it.
Good
yeah.
place to go in. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd watch it. I thought it was developed and made to be theatrical, wasn't it? And then they just
Yeah,
shoved
then
it
they
onto-
dumped it.
yeah.
So what do you guys
There's
think?
also the prequel Chapel Wait with Adrian Brody out there. That's supposed to be pretty good.
What do you guys say we re-review Frankie Freako next week?
Well,
Just
so
for the
Eric,
vibes.
next week we were supposed to be taking the week off. I mean, that was
Sure.
calendared that way.
Sounds
at
good
least.
to me.
But
Do
I
we
don't know,
have?
I was gonna say we could also put in a rerun. We haven't done a rerun in a long time.
We could do that.
Little
Sure.
Thanksgiving rerun for everybody
Love
on their turkey hangover.
Put
I'll
out
try to find
Thanksgiving.
one where your mic was working.
Oh,
Good luck to you. Good luck.
Or we didn't
Back
have
in the
some
old
freak
Yeti days.
technical
that has
difficulty.
been today's episode of
All right, taking a week, and we'll put something in the feed. There you go.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Thankful for You.
Yes,
That's right.
Gobble gobble.
all right, y'all. That's gonna do it for Bloody Good Horror. Hope you enjoy the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See yous.
Bye.
Bye bye.